a USB
Yeah.
mic, and that's the thing, is that you can overload your USB
Yeah.
slots on the board. Okay,
I'm
show
gonna
notes.
stop trying to
if
make
there are any.
jokes
Yeah.
now.
We're gonna go.
And we're going live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shalene, Rick, Vandertron, take us on a trip. Radiation glowing, mutants all around. Sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry. But we know no matter what, we'll always have the time to talk about the wastelands, talk about the Lord, talk about surviving radiation storms, talk about the doubts, talk about the fears, talk about the game we all love. It's Fallout through the years. That Fallout show.
Holy schmoligans. Welcome back, everyone, to That Fallout Show. It's actually happening, Shalene. It's actually happening. I am your co-host, Vendertron. Joining me this evening is the illustrious, the very hot Shalene. Hello, Shalene.
Hey, Mungos.
Yeah. And also we have a very special guest this evening. Special. Very special. She's the specialist of all specials. Jessica Starr. Hello, Jessica. Jess. Oh, you're muted. That's how special she is. She talks and it's like she's on a different wavelength.
Hello, world. So happy to see you all. Yes, the specialist. And Shalene, you are looking hot. I love that blouse.
Yeah.
Wait, thank you.
Yeah. I wasn't catcalling Shalene. Her mic was actually really hot before we went live. And then we were making jokes about it. So, but, you know. Anyways, that's awkward. Hi, how's your week? How's everyone doing?
I'm here. I made it
know.
here on time.
I'm here.
I-
I'm in a room and I'm singing. I'm in a room and I'm singing. Do you remember that from Elf? Will Ferrell?
Mm-mm.
Oh, so good.
I have never seen Elf.
I haven't either.
Mhm.
Nope. You are on an elf list. You're with an elf list crew tonight, Vendor. Are we going
Wow.
to stop the show now and watch Elf? Is
I
that
mean,
a thing?
it's kind of okay because Elf is like it's like Christmas on roids. So if
Mhm.
you're not into that, then might be better just to not, watch The Shining instead.
Okay. There is no video for the people. I
Oh
just-
yeah, look at that.
yeah.
Because I didn't switch to the.
That's okay.
Yeah,
A little bit of
to the
editing this
intro.
episode to get it all tight.
Let's
But
just
See,
test
that's
that
the
out.
thing. We talk
Main.
about editing the episode, but then I never do it. So
I mean, the thing is this is a podcast. We have audio listeners. We're here. You can see us. I just picked the wrong button because it's been a week and I'm tired. I started a
Oh.
new job today, and
I also completely
it was
forgot to
fun.
pull up the chat. Chat is a thing that we have. That's-
welcome to people in the chat. We got Lee Benjamin and Sulior and Archin in there. People rolling in Friday.
That is-
Welcome.
awesome. Yeah, I just dropped the link over in my Discord there for people who want to come over. Great to see you guys.
This is why we have our in-studio producer to tell us what we're doing wrong
Mhm.
as we're doing it so that we have, somewhat of a good product to put out for people.
Yeah, it is super helpful.
Anyways, you're listening to That Fallout Show episode 73, and tonight's episode we are covering the final episode of the first season of that other Fallout show, The Beginning. And before we kick off tonight's show, we do want to welcome you to the number 44 video game podcast in Latvia. Thank you to our listeners in Latvia. But also to, nudge you all to share and promote the show, share us on social media, send us some emails. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe and get the podcast in your inbox when Shalene posts them. Before we get started, of course, we have some news. Nuclear News Network we're going to go through the episode summary and talk about our overall impressions of the season, because this is the final episode of our season 1 for That Other Fallout show. And we're really happy that Jess could join us this evening because, as we know, she is the authority on all things Fallout, right?
Oh.
So
Just one, an authority at best. Lowercase a, but I try.
lowercase a,
Well-
but italicized and underscored. So
Oh, hot. Yes,
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
Yeah, you're the only Fallout authority that we want on our show, so there's
I'm
that.
so
We thought
happy I
about-
could
we
join
thought
you all
about-
for this one.
We thought about bringing Dave on, but then he had to dad, so we cut him loose.
Yeah.
We love you, Dave.
Dave's
This-
character. Didn't you say that Dave's character was written out of this season of that Fallout show?
Yes. Yeah, I told him that we killed off his character.
To be fair, this is a very hard episode of That Other Fallout show for dads.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
True.
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 It's
True.
true. Yeah, we
Mhm.
probably should have Dave here to speak to the daddiness of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Rick also couldn't make it. He had a work thing that he could not avoid. So, yeah. It was a
But
bummer.
Jess, how have you been? What are you working on lately? How's things?
Well, I am actually doing really well. I was just telling you guys pre-show that I am on vacation today, and I chose to
Yes.
celebrate my first day of vacation with y'all. Of course.
Yay!
It's
I
truly
have-
an honor.
Oh, thank you. I've been really busy in the world of Fallout and now back in Starfield. Fallout, the last 2 months, we had a major production from the Wasteland Theater Company, end of August. That was a big one that took month of August. And then, as I know a lot of you know, we just did the Fallout Day celebration, the first annual,
Yes.
previously Bombs Drop Day, now the Fallout Day. And we did a huge 4-hour kind of fan extravaganza for that.
That's amazing.
And great fun, but a whole lot of work getting creators and camp builders and everyone together to interview and chat. So much fun. We had such a great turnout for that. So, yeah,
I really
yeah.
do prefer calling it Fallout Day to Bombs Drop Day.
Me too. Bombs drop. I mean, obviously, yes, that is the day of the Great War. Those 2 hours that live in ignominy and kind of changed everything from there out. But Fallout Day sounds so much better. It's like N7 Day, Dragon Age Day, Bombs Drop Day. Yeah, no, I much prefer Fallout Day.
Bombs Drop
It
Day
feels
is
much
usually
more
like,
celebratory
Yeah,
to have
exactly.
Fallout Day. Bombs Drop Day is actually at this current time in the world a little insensitive.
Well, I mean,
So-
for me, it happens every day at about 8:30 in the morning. So,
That cup of coffee starts kicking in.
yep, you
Yeah.
betcha.
Gotta
Yep.
drop those bombs. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
My goodness, but
we don't
yeah.
have Rick here, so I
That's
have
why
to be
we
a
do
little
all the colon
Rickily.
jokes. That's why we do colon jokes on We Just Left Games Network, because
That's true. On GameStack, we've got the announcement of upcoming games, but sadly, much to all of our chagrin, there are no upcoming Fallout games to list out.
My
Oh,
gosh.
moment of silence.
Oh, this is a trash fire. Okay. I
Rip.
suppose we should hop into the Nuclear News What Network so we can get on to the important part of the show, which is talking about the episode. Let's hop into our news. Shalene's going to walk you through that.
okay, friends, we are discovering this news together because I didn't even know we had show notes for this episode. So do you love Legos? Well, that's too bad for you. Because the Fallout Lego set is actually Mega Bloks. But the Red Rocket set is back in stock on Amazon. So if you would love that, then check that out on Amazon. And it actually does look pretty good, even though it is like faux Legos.
Yeah, it's cute.
It's really cool.
It is very adorable, and it looks somehow charming and wasteland at the same time. And I quite enjoy it. I am annoyed that that the fact that Microsoft has these deals with Mega Bloks means that we will never get official Lego for Fallout.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just-
Lego would be nice, but Mega Bloks, they got the color right. I like the fact that
They
they've got
did.
characters there. And, to go beyond the Fallout slightly, they're also doing an Alduin set. So they're going all in on Bethesda Game Studios' Mega Bloks.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
And who was it that we were talking about the Red Rocket? there's like a model that you can buy of the Red Rocket, and is it the Mega Bloks one? We were talking about this
It's the
before.
Mega Bloks one.
It
Yeah.
is? Oh, okay, I thought it was something else.
Yeah,
It's not bad. I mean, it looks okay. Let me just pull it up on the B-roll for the peoples.
It doesn't look bad. We talked about this on GameStack, I think, is why it feels so familiar.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure we
that's
talked
why.
about this on GameStack.
I mean, I like it. You've got your power armor chassis in there. You got a little bobblehead on the oil barrel outside, and I think they nailed the lettering.
They did.
The
They
lettering
really
looks
did.
really good. Yeah.
And the figurines look really good too.
Yeah.
There are even vines. Like, I like the fact that there's vines and
Mhm.
verdigris kind of hanging down. And I don't think it lights up, but that red rocket is pretty bright.
I'm just really glad that dog meat doesn't fit in the Nuka-Cola dispenser,
Right? Oh my goodness.
because I don't know how I would feel about that.
Oh, yes, I'd be very upset.
Poor
Also, good
dog meat.
reference to episode. Was that episode 6 or 7? Good
Yeah,
reference.
Seven, I
it's one
believe.
of
Yeah,
them.
I think
Yeah.
that was our most recent one. Yes.
Gosh, that was a good episode.
So the next thing that we're going to talk about, this is another thing that we've talked about before. I'm not sure if we've talked about it on TFS or just GameStack,
Or is it
but it is
podcast
worth
amnesia?
covering again because we are mentioning Fallout London, which is a huge mod that was released. It's available to download now. And we're bringing it back up again because we may or may not have an esteemed voice actor from the Fallout London mod on the show with us today. Do you want to tell us about that?
Oh,
Miss Jessica
goodness.
Starr?
Hello. Yes. Hello. Hi. My name is Jessica Starr. I happen to be in the Fallout London mod. I am actually not an esteemed voice actor in Fallout London. No, my character has a voice, but I am a general voice. I am voiced by other voice
Oh.
actors, but I do have a
Wow.
character in there.
You're that
Uh,
famous that other people have done your voice for you? Like, you had your people call their people? Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, often imitated, never
Wow.
quite perfected. Yeah, no, they're like, I think I heard people were clamoring to voice me. But yeah, so I am a character there. If you make it to the faction up in Camden and you get into the bar, I happen to be tending bar there once you unlock that quest line.
That's
in there.
amazing.
I will
love
buy your
that.
goods. I'm a little bit light on caps or tickets, as it is in Fallout London. I'm a little bit light on tickets, So, but if you come see me again, I'll build them up because when I first generate, I don't generate with a lot of tickets. But give me a day or two in game, and I'll start making bank. But yeah, so I happen to work with the crew a little bit. We did some, interviews, some pre-release interviews with them, and I've been talking to them all along. And I joined their Patreon and such. And so yeah, they asked if I wanted to be a character, and I said, hell yes.
That's amazing.
That delights me.
I mean, okay, Fallout London is probably one of the biggest Fallout expansions to come out
Ever.
that people have been very much anticipating, and your work in the Fallout community, Jess, has just been absolutely stellar, above and beyond. So I think that this is much deserved. Congratulations.
Well, thanks, guys. And for people who haven't played London yet, it runs wonderfully at this point on PC. It'll run with the GOG and the Steam version. You guys probably already covered it on the show a bit when it first released.
We did.
But they did just release patch 1.02. And that added a lot of stability to the game. That just came out last week. And so if you were having trouble before with, surprise crashes and a few quests that couldn't quite complete, they've really cleared a lot of that up. I would say that at this point, Fallout London on a lot of systems, obviously configurations vary, runs as well as Fallout 4 a couple months in.
That is brilliant.
Very solid. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So what was your experience
So
like
just
doing that?
a side story.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna.
go.
I was reminiscing. Talking about having someone else voice act you, Jess, made me remember that one time on the Fallout feed when we April Fools the people by claiming each other's identities.
That was so fun. That was just a year and a half ago. So silly. I loved it. We confused the guys on both our shows.
That's great.
Good times. Good times.
I was just
Sorry for the derailment.
No, I was just gonna ask. So, what was that process like? Were you intricately involved in the development of your character, and were you did you have a lineup of voice actors that you were like, this is the person that I want to do my
No,
voice?
not intricately involved. And I am just I am just a general, like I said, general NPC kind of cleric character. But they did work on the likeness, They punked her out a bit. She got the red hair. She got the accessories.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah, really great. The bar she's in is all purple and green. So hello.
I love it.
It's called the Cyber Fox. Like they definitely tailored it to me. So very, very happy there. But no, I have the same voice actor as several other vendors in the game.
That's really neat.
to be truthful.
It's still cool though. It's like you're basically immortalized in Fallout London now.
I'm super happy about that. And, Fallout London was such an important fan project. Like, not only do I say that
Huge.
the team knocked it out of the park, but there were a lot of people in the community involved. I had several friends who are on the dev team working on art and various things. Other people in the community who, contributed or talked to them are also immortalized in there. You have people like Mantis in there. You have people like Dave Oshry is one of the earliest vendors you can unlock over in Bromley. When you first do the Bromley quest line, you can unlock him. So yeah, there are a number of people.
Very fun.
So
Very,
good.
very fun.
And have you I assume that you've played and you've checked yourself out? Like you've
So
what
in
was that?
London,
What was that like?
I have not unlocked myself yet.
Dang it.
As mentioned, it's been a kind of busy last 2 months, but I have, I've got a good 30 hours in London at least, a little bit more, and I've been having people send me pictures. So I've got, I've had at least 7 people send me pictures of my character running into me, stuff like that.
You should take some new footage of your character in
Mm-hmm.
Fallout London, and then we'll include it in the intro for TFS when we have your little name splash in the intro, and then it can just be like you.
Will do.
Yeah.
What an absolute delight.
Yeah,
I love it.
so good. Best news. Have you got any more good news up your sleeve, Shalene?
Well, we've got this article about Fallout Season 2. And honestly, we don't know a whole ton about Fallout Season 2. But let's see here. I'm just scrolling. Sorry. We're looking at probably 2026 before we're watching new episodes
Yeah.
of Season 2.
Well, that'll get us that'll give us some time to put some show notes together.
Yes. Oh dear.
Our
Oh,
lives are
dear.
such messes. Okay.
Oh dear. So filming is most likely going to kick off this month. And it will be filmed in California. A shift from New York and Utah, where much of season 1 was filmed.
That's so
And-
interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Huh.
Yeah, Prime Video was granted $153 million in qualified expenditures by the California Film Commission.
That
So
is amazing.
Tax
that is
breaks
a
bring
reasonable
production back.
reason to film there. That's
Yep.
mhm.
And it
we
should
are
streamline some things. They moved a lot of sets and stuff as well, right, Shalene?
Yes, they did.
I wonder how they're going to logistically do that.
I don't think it'll be a big issue. Honestly, there are huge swaths of California that look very much like
Yeah.
a
I mean,
Fallout
of
game.
course. Yeah.
That's
Of course.
mhm.
I mean, the next article that I have in the show notes kind of leads into our discussion about our expectations for season 2, but I'll let you finish the preamble first.
Yeah, we are expecting to see the return of the core cast, including Ella Purnell as Lucy, Aaron Moten as
Yes.
Maximus, and Walton Goggins as the Ghoul. And most likely many of the other side characters will also be returning for the second season. New characters are expected to be introduced. Rumors are that Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad may be making an appearance in the series.
Oh.
Showrunner and producer Jonathan Nolan, who previously worked with Paul on Westworld, mentioned that he is a big fan of the show. And when asked if anyone had reached out about joining the cast, Nolan said, Aaron Paul was at the premiere, a human being I love so much, and he was very polite. He was very enthusiastic about the show. There was sort of an unspoken kind of like, "What's up, man?"
He can't play any other role than being like a drugged up raider. Like he has to be totally fully strung out on jet all the time.
It's the only
Here-
acceptable role.
Hear me out, vendor. What if you put him in a tan striped suit and he is running a casino. We don't know the state that New Vegas
Oh,
is
that
going
would
to
be
be in next
good.
season, but I could totally see him as ring-a-ding, baby.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the
Amazing.
start.
Hmm.
Yes. There is some indications that we may visit New Vegas in season 2, as we will likely talk about during our recap of the episode. And Nolan mentions that he really desires to explore one locale in particular close to his heart if he gets a thumbs up for Fallout Season 2. So I think that we all are pretty sure that that's New Vegas.
Oh, I
Um,
mean, if they want to strike gold without having to do any work, all they have to do is dangle a little bit of New Vegas in our faces.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly, I really do think that New Vegas is a risky move for the
Mhm.
show, because New Vegas as a game is so deeply beloved that touching the lore of New Vegas is super dangerous. And
Yeah.
also, like I mentioned it before, I am one of the New Vegas fans, one of those New Vegas is the best Fallout people. But I have also admitted that the New Vegas is the best Fallout people are the worst of the Fallout fans, among the worst of the Fallout fans.
Because nothing else
anyway.
compares.
Because they tend to be a little meaner about their love of this franchise. And
Yeah.
I feel like if there is anything that isn't exactly perfect about New Vegas, or anything that even gently deviates from what we know, it's going to get roasted.
That
Well-
is the worry. I would say, Shalene, you're exactly where
Yeah.
I am on this. Okay, if they do my boy New Vegas like they did my boy Shady Sands, there's gonna be some trouble in here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the thing. They pretty much frickin' nailed the season 1
Mhm.
in terms of Fallout. I'm pretty confident. I have a lot of trust in them being able to embolden or capture the essence of Fallout New Vegas.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
definitely.
absolutely adore what they did with season 1. I think I've made that abundantly clear. But there are some lore inconsistencies
Yeah.
that
They had
I
to they had to fluff
understand
it.
why
They'd had to
people-
fluff it up a bit. Yeah. So
Yeah,
so what
and
I-
we'll see. We'll see for season 2. You know, I think a lot of it will have to do with the state, because when you're delving into the territory of a specific game, there is an end game state. You know,
Yeah.
there are multiple endings.
Yeah.
Are they canonizing one? We know they're going to
Exactly.
Yeah.
try not to. But even if we're okay, like if that was, say, New Vegas was 81 and this is 96 in the show, you're looking at 15 years. Okay, so things can change. And maybe whoever took over, something's happened in the intervening time. But you can't completely reset it and destroy New Vegas, because that would break our heart.
Mhm.
So please don't do
Okay,
that.
everyone just calm down. It's going to be okay. I think maybe actually it might be better for us to save our conversation about our expectations for season
True.
2 for the end, after we've gone through this last episode and talked about our overall impressions. You okay there, Shalene?
No, I've been sneezing all day. I don't know if it's allergies or what.
Post-COVID. It's probably allergies. Anyways, yeah, so that's our news. Hey, Shalene, you wanna hop into the episode?
Yeah, do the thing.
All right, that's the news. Let's hop into our episode. So, Jess, do you want to take the reins on giving everyone sort of a recap of episode 7, leading into episode 8? Is that something? Am I prompting you unsuspectingly?
You are definitely prompting me unsuspectingly. Yeah, I mean, we kind of all know where we're coming from, right? This was the big lead up in episode 7.
And to be fair, we are an audio podcast, and even though these are releasing fairly distantly apart, the people can listen to them all in one chunk.
That's true.
So-
Okay, so very quickly then, I'll just say in episode 7 that it revealed new relationships, underground changes and flashbacks, and building suspense for the final act, which is episode 7. The ghoul, played by Walton Goggins, searched for Moldaver. Lucy faced death by banishment in Vault 4, and Maximus sacrifices himself for her. And then we learned also that Norm's loyalty was tested in Vault 33 as the citizens moved to Vault 32, and Thaddeus discovered a potential secret about himself, which...
Yeah, I think that covers a lot of it. I mean, the thing to remember is episode 7 covered so much territory. It started with Lucy being kicked out of Vault 4.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so like it
Yeah.
moved quite a ways from there.
Yeah.
Her getting kicked out of Vault 4. You get the whole thing with Thaddeus carrying the head. You get, was it WPSS? Was that the radio station?
Yeah.
That whole scene, like, yeah, a lot of things happen. And it's funny, the characters came together and now they're split apart again to start episode 8.
So in episode 8, which is ironically and beautifully titled The Beginning, because
Isn't it funny that the first episode was the end and now our final episode is the beginning?
it's brilliant. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Fallout.
What actually we should have named this episode of the podcast The End. And then it would have been the end of the beginning.
The end, the beginning.
Yes.
Oh, there's the colon. Thank you.
Yes. So in this episode, briefly before we hop into the transcript, the plot. So in a shocking revelation from a flashback, Howard learns of Vault-Tec's nefarious plan to instigate a nuclear war to rebuild society under their control, offering vaults to other corporations for their experiments. And in the present, Maximus avoids punishment by joining the fight against Moldaver's forces, while Norm uncovers a chilling scheme in Vault 31, where Vault-Tec executives are cryogenically preserved, planning to use residents of Vault 32 and 33 as breeding stock to create super managers. Meanwhile, Lucy confronts her father at Moldaver settlement, disowning him after discovering his role in destroying Shady Sands with a nuclear bomb to silence dissent against Vault-Tec. And then finally, the saga culminates in a battle over Moldaver's cold fusion technology, leading to her death and the Brotherhood mistakenly celebrating Maximus's
Wow.
as a
such a big
hero.
episode.
And then, amidst that chaos, Lucy decides to join Howard and CX-404 in a quest to uncover more truths about Vault-Tec and her family's past. And so the scene opens up, of course, as you do, in the California desert with a vertibird flying by, and we've got Maximus in the vertibird.
Yes.
And I'll hand it over to you, Shalene.
Yes. So Maximus is just being stared down by a couple of brothers in power armor. And like he knows that this isn't going to go well for him. And you could really tell from the look on his face, the way his expression changed at the end of episode 7. He was so hopeful and full of life when Lucy was still with him. And as soon as she was gone, all of that facade just drains away because he knows he's a dead man.
Mm-hmm.
He's
And
walking into the lion's den.
Mhm.
He's bought her some time, but what's
Mhm.
it going to mean for him? Yeah, he doesn't know.
he knew the cost would be high. He knew his personal cost would be high.
Yeah, and I mean, this was like kind of scary for me because I thought that they were actually gonna just like, you know,
Summarily execute him. So
yeah.
for our audio folks, he did like a neck chopping motion. That doesn't translate super well to
Right.
recorded audio.
Sorry, forgot about that. Yeah.
So the Brotherhood has occupied Philly. I don't remember if we had seen this before, but they have fully occupied Philly. It is now a Brotherhood substation.
Yeah, this is when we find out. You know, you see the Pridwin-esque, you see the airship above
Mhm.
Philly and all that, and them coming in. We don't know what's happened to the town's populace. They've been subdued, probably more killed. Obviously, the ghoul already took care of some when he was there
Yes.
before, although you don't know if it was like the main population or transient population at the time, because we don't really know much about Philly. Let's be honest, as cool as Philly is as a set piece, you know, very downtown Diamond City meets a little bit more, you know, Western kind of New Vegas town. We don't really know much about the residents there. What's the actual population? But we know that now the population is pretty full of
Yes.
Brotherhood, and they're not exactly pleased with Maximus.
Yes, many hostile stares coming his way. And he faces the elder here, and the elder is so harsh about this. And his opening line is something to the effect of like, what happened to your knight? He says he died. Well, That is not the first time someone's been injured in your company, is it?
I love that line. Yes, this is not the first time a brother in your company has fallen to misfortune. He is so
Mhm.
he is so like the accusations implicit in that line.
Yeah. It's quite good. I've lost my controls for this, but and he's holding the head. Or he's
Mhm.
holding a head, because in the last episode, you recall, he just took a random head from the radio station, right?
Right? Yeah, one of the people who died to a trap. I mean, if this ploy worked, if they believed him, this could be a triumphant return from Max. But nobody has much faith in him, and he knows it's not going to go well. That they're going to figure it
Yeah.
out pretty quick.
Yeah, and so he's pleading with them, and this is funny because like I don't know if like Dane, right? Dane.
Dane.
This
Mhm.
is probably one of the moments where I felt the least trustful of this character.
Well, I don't. I had mixed feelings about this scene. Like, Dane steps up here and says, "Do not hurt him. I did it to myself." And honestly, I was not sure if I believed Dane or not.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
I-
saying. That's
I
what I'm
still
saying.
don't know, right? He
Yes.
says it was, they say it was my own doing. My injury was my own doing, my lord. Like, okay, so was it though? Because it was vague when it first happened, and
It
it's still
was.
vague now.
It was really unclear whether or not Maximus did it.
And
And they made it just, there were reasons to suspect that maybe he did. And I feel like Dane is the friend that everyone should have and no one deserves, because they
True.
stepped up for Maximus here in a way that I don't think he deserved. And I don't think he was ever the kind of friend to Dane to deserve this kind of loyalty. And whether or not Dane was responsible for their own injury, I just, astonishing that they stood up like this, and the look on Maximus's face really says it all.
yeah, because Maximus is begging for his life here before that happens.
Yeah.
Because he
Mhm.
knows it's over. The worst is about to come. I actually think the biggest argument for Max not being the one to have done it to Dane in the first place is the entire show we've seen so far. Max is not usually a doer. Like
Mhm.
he will he will jump and take advantage of certain situations, but he's not about to like make a really bold move like that.
Yeah.
I feel like
He's
the
more
first
of a reactor than a planner.
right when he went to rescue Lucy, save Lucy from Vault 4, that was maybe the most active he's been that way in a lot of ways. So I don't think he would hurt a friend. I don't think he's that kind of person, or at least hasn't been up to now.
And then we see +1 plus 0.5 intelligence for Maximus in this scene. He's really stretching that single brain cell that he has.
Oh my gosh.
When he's laying out his perspective about what the Brotherhood has become and what it is now, to the Elder. Go ahead, Shalene.
The Elder is so menacing in this scene. I feel like there are big Palpatine vibes from the
Yes.
Elder. He's very much like Palpatine corrupting Anakin,
Yeah.
and this is amazing. I just, the way he exploits, like, oh, you've always wanted a home, build one with me. And it really does echo it. There's a lot of bookends in this episode, and to me this bookends with the moment in the last episode when Lucy invites him to come live in the vault with her.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's thinking about the possible homes that he could have here.
Right.
And I do want to say though that even though Maximus has that like 0.5 intelligence stat on his special, this man is bold. He does not lack for bravery. The Elder asks how I've forgotten his name, Titus. How did Titus die? He died running.
I love that.
Oh, that was such a cool statement to make.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
It
'cause he
told
was
Elder
counting-
Quintus everything he needed to know in the moment.
Well,
it
he's-
cast shame upon
Yeah.
Titus and cast, Max in a better light. And
I
I mean,
mean-
I think Max is like 3 or 4 intelligence.
Well,
Special.
here's the thing. Like, this is basically his performance review, and
Mhm.
and he went out on a limb and almost
Mhm.
lost it, right? Like he said, the Brotherhood has lost its way. We once ruled the wasteland, and yet,
Right.
power is taken,
Mhm.
not given. Um, so, and the Elder's like, what if what you say is true? Or, sorry, Maximus says, if what you say is true, you can lead us to the relic.
Right. You could be
And
the sword
and
as well, in
together
this
we
Now-
can
new
take
brotherhood.
power, right?
Something that I found really interesting was that the elder said, like, we can build a new brotherhood with me as its head and the likes of you as its sword.
True.
He does
yes.
not specifically promise Maximus that he will be the sword. He avoids that, and I found that interesting.
Yeah,
I
that's
think he's
true.
considering Maximus one of several soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
as a knight.
I mean, I think he's just trying to display his prowess and his power, that he has authority over Maximus. Right? He's like, don't forget that you are dispensable.
Oh, sure. He just had Maximus on the veritable chopping block.
Yes.
Yes, literally
if
on his
Alduin
knees.
hadn't showed up, he
Mhm.
would be dead right now.
Yes.
Yeah. No, exactly.
I just find this so interesting. The way that he is like trying to seduce him to this idea. And
Well,
it's
I mean,
just
honestly, for me, this is the first time that I really seen Maximus do some heavy thinking.
Compare and contrast what he does in this scene with the cleric compared to the first time. You see
Mhm.
how much he's changed as a person over the last 8 episodes.
Yeah, it's true. And
He's
not
much
to
stronger.
mention, let's talk about the bridge scene where he has to navigate his way through a combat situation, and he's very, very in tune with what's going on.
Mhm.
He can almost predict what's going to happen and anticipate what he needs to do to keep himself alive, and Lucy, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
he is good. He is well trained. He may not be as up on some of the Brotherhood technical
Yes.
knowledge as, say, Thaddeus is, or other.
But he knows instinct, and he knows
squires
people,
who had done
right?
better.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, he does. He can read, or he's got a lot of experience reading people, even if he's not very good at social
reading
skills.
books.
But also, yeah, but when it comes to the actual the technical knowledge, no, but technical skills, he adapted to work using power armor quite quickly. Yes, he's quick with a gun. Yes, he's good in action. I mean, he is a good soldier for
Absolutely.
what he is up to this point.
And this moment here where he's having this conversation with the elder, and he has that flashback to being rescued from Shady Sands, from the ruins of Shady Sands by a knight.
Mhm.
I love how they continue to flash back to that throughout the series. And it reminds me really strongly of The Mandalorian and Pedro Pascal's character.
You've talked about this before.
Continually having the
Mhm.
flashback to being pulled out of that hiding place by Mandalorian soldiers and just saved. And it just really, really does. It illustrates beautifully what motivates Maximus.
It's a necessary thing. I see a little bit of redundancy in it. For me, it's the writers are handing people his character development on a silver platter without people really having to focus in and think critically on the person that he's become.
Well, I disagree with you very strongly there. I really think that that this was beautifully done.
Yeah, I
It
think
was
it's necessary.
very
Like I said, it's necessary.
elegant way to illustrate it.
Hmm.
So,
We all rise from the ashes.
indeed.
Yeah. And then we switch to a new scene.
Yes, and Lucy has made her way to Moldaver's stronghold, to reclaim her father. And I love this gateway with the cars, the
Brilliant.
old cars standing up, like bracing the fence. And it's just so aggressively Wasteland and so aggressively Fallout. And
Yep.
it reminds me of, actually, I think it's Fallout 1, the gates to Junktown. It reminds me very strongly of the gates to
Oh, the
Junktown.
shape is very Junktown.
That's
I
right.
really thought Megaton because of the way it moved, or the fact we've got that car gate in Fallout 76 currently.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, that is super Junktown.
And you've paused it here on her Pip-Boy. You've reached your destination. I love those game references that they've slipped in.
I feel like you would really benefit from having a Pip-Boy, Shalene.
I think I would. Yeah, I think it would really help keep me on track. And if I could get like a little XP boost every time that I finished a work task, I
Yeah.
feel like I would be so much more productive at work.
And then we
Um,
see for the first time, what is it? The Griffith
the
Observatory?
observatory, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you
And
you've been here, Jess, have you?
No, in real life, no, I
Yeah.
haven't.
No, you haven't? Okay. I love what they've done with it. It actually, Shalene, it reminds me of that episode of The Last of Us, where they filmed in my city and they filmed the parliament or
Mhm.
the parliament buildings or the legislature in my city, but they used CGI to make it look all post-apocalyptic and
Mhm.
dilapidated and stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
the statue is gone from the front of the Griffith Observatory, and it looks like it took a explosion on the left side of the building, but it's
Definitely some of the
for the
rotunda
most part
missing.
intact. And they've got corn; they're growing corn, and it's funny because I was half expecting it to be like just like this yard of like a trash heap of like raiders strung
That's
out
what
on
you
drugs.
expect. That's
That's
what you
what Lucy
expect to see.
expected, especially, right?
Yeah.
Even though like we have learned things that would kind of make us wonder, wait, are we reading this wrong? You know, the Moldaver worship in Vault 4, for instance, of the people
And
from
if
the
we want to
NCR.
stop here for a minute, Bender,
Yeah.
the corn really subverts expectations in more than one way. By that being the first thing that Lucy sees when she opens the door, it's you associate farming with civilization. You know, you associate
Civilization, yeah.
farming with peace.
Yeah.
And also this corn is also it harkens back to the corn in her own vault that they're growing.
Yep.
And
And in her memory of Shady Sands. Yeah, that's been
yes,
a real something she equates with kind of like home and civilization through these various scenes.
safety. The corn
Mhm.
represents safety. And she sees these families and children and some very it's not at all what she expects.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But we also see ghouls in the mix.
Yeah, living in peace and harmony with the smooth skins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out too, where you've got it paused right now, that ghoul there at the table, getting some food from the cauldron, was one of the ghouls she saved at the Super Duper Mart location in episode 4.
Are you serious? I did not catch that.
Yeah, so when they all kind of burst out, you know, obviously Martha was among them and others. At the end, a lanky one came out and said, "Thank you," before running off. That was him, same guy. So that's why he recognizes her. And if you have
Absolutely
subtitles
brilliant.
on, I think you can see he says something like, "That's her," and it's completely, you know, apropos of nothing. Like you don't necessarily know unless you know that's why that line is there. But
I wonder if that had any sort of impact on Moldaver's perspective of her. I mean, it doesn't matter; she's dead now. But like, like, did she maybe find out that Lucy set the ghoul free and that maybe she's actually a good person? And
she may have heard some word from
Vault
various
people
things,
are not
yeah.
all that deranged, you know? Like,
We don't know about Moldaver's intelligence network and how much she knows, but it does seem that, you know, she knows a lot. And she is one of the powers
Yeah.
out here. So she may have heard more about what Lucy's been doing the last 3 weeks as well, which I think kind of working out the timeline, it's been about 2 to 3 weeks as far as out in the wasteland from when she first left Vault 33, right? I
Yeah.
think at minimum 2 and at most 3.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's
That was a really
it's-
great catch with the ghoul there, Jess.
That's a good catch. Yeah.
Mhm.
Then we're into the next scene. We're back with Coop, and he's
Yes.
trudging across the desert as you do. Ah, sorry, I'm looking at the playback, and he's just walking, and in the background you just see towers, and they're just
Mhm.
falling apart, and there's like a sandstorm, and it's just such a great
Lost
shot.
in the cinematography.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
good.
It's beautiful. And the imagery of the lone gunslinger walking through the desert, you know, as among the ruins of civilization is very powerful.
And I think that those buildings that I was referring to is actually leading into the next scene, which is the Vault Tech building, the
Absolutely.
skyscraper that is in this scene that we see. And it's in the past, and we see that beautiful yellow car that he drives. Oh my God.
And I wanted to point out something that I'm sure was obvious to most of you, but I only noticed on the rewatch. Barb tells him, "Thank you for the ride." And he says, "Well, it's the least I could do after I bungled your oil change." He
Right.
sabotaged her car
He
to
did.
have an excuse to come here and spy on her.
He did it on purpose. He wanted to drive her to
did.
work. So yes.
That's a good catch. Yeah, I never thought about that. This car is just like, oh man.
It
Anyways,
is so good. So she heads into work and he tunes in his little earbud, his little AirPod to listen in on her device. And who pops out but Bud? We are so tired of Bud. He's a persistent annoyance, and he talks about how he is developing this program to make management longer lasting because the true antagonist is time. And I rewatching this, I just was struck anew by the horror of realizing that the true antagonist of this show is Bud.
Yeah.
Bud, annoying Bud.
The future is determined by one word: management, as he says early
Congratulations
on.
being prepared for the future.
Sorry.
He is such an antagonist, though. You're absolutely right. Like, he seems like he's just a small guy. He's just a little boy. But no, I mean, this is the evil middle management.
He's the
and
Vault
He
Tech
seems like an
sales rep.
annoyance.
Vault-Tech
Seems-
calling.
He seems like an annoyance, but in reality, without Bud, none of this happens. Without
he
Bud.
shows up smiling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple things to notice on here too. So he drives up in this cute little car. I love this car. It's not a Fusion Flea because they didn't recreate the Fallout specific vehicles for the show, although they used some. But this is actually a Messerschmitt KR 200. I think it was built in like from the mid 50s, 55 to like 65 about. There were only maybe 40,000 of them built. Just a cool little import car and a kind of perfect stand-in for a Fusion Flea here.
Very
Oh,
cute.
That's interesting. I thought
Also
that it
his license
was
plate. Can we get his license plate on screen? Bender?
Possibly. I'm gonna have to scrub through a little bit. I don't know. What does the license plate say?
I don't remember. I remember it was something cute that was very a Bud reference. Oh, I think it says just askin'. His name's Bud Askins, and I think it says just askin',
Oh.
JSTASKN. Yeah.
That's so cute.
It's so him.
On the little car.
Yeah, on his little
Yeah,
car. Yeah,
yeah.
it's just a little brief shot.
Yes, you are right. That is just asking.
Just asking.
How do you see that?
Wow.
Yeah, I zoomed in on it back.
That is
This one-
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Good catch. I mean, if you're gonna put a subtle detail into something, that's gonna be it. And that's
They
the
made
intro.
the world so real.
So we've gotten through the intro, and then of course we see the inaugural Fallout lettering, and this time it's different. It is static television Fallout lettering. We've seen singed, we've seen radioactive, we've seen watery. It's so we end the season off with the classic Fallout television lettering, and then we're back at Moldaver's place with Lucy.
Mm-hmm. And she sees her father, who is in basically a giant bird cage. We're in the observatory, which has this opening to the world now because it's been partially bombed. And it's really interesting because this is like it's the theater part of the observatory where they would project the stars so that you can sit in your comfy seat and look at the stars.
It's
I
an
need
awesome
to go to an
set.
observatory, man. It
This-
is an awesome set.
Is an awesome set. It was a fully built soundstage. And another interesting fact about the show there. So you see how it's broken through and you see the sky. Normally that would be a green screen put in after. From what I understand, they built this in a full surround studio where they were able to actually project that against the wall while filming. So the actors actually got this view as well while they were filming.
I think
Oh,
that's
that is
really,
amazing.
really important for this episode,
Mhm.
because it speaks to the gravity of like the actual, like the end of the episode, and we'll get to that in a moment. But you're right, Daddy's in a cage. He's all
Mhm.
locked up like a little
He's
canary.
looking pretty rough, by the way. He has not been treated kindly.
I like that he is standing here, presumably looking at his wife, and he still has his wedding ring on. And I'm like,
Mhm.
you cold bastard.
Mhm.
You
This was rough.
cold-hearted bastard.
This
So-
is rough.
Yeah, and we get that revelation partway through the episode that the ghoul here, the very feral ghoul, I believe,
Yeah,
or
and
very
it's
incapacitated ghoul is his wife. Now, we assume Coop has known and been told within the last, 2 weeks he's been here. But we don't know. We don't know if he knows or suspects. We don't even know like how much time he's spent in this cage. Like
Right.
something
So
I
Hank may not
proposed.
know that that's the mom. He may not
Right.
know.
Mm-hmm.
I proposed to the guys that to me that this scene felt very much like your final boss setup room. It's the
agree.
climax of the show, but
Yes.
the idea that there's a table there set with that ghoul in that chair, with Moldaver here, with all this delicious food, with her father in the cage. Like, do you really think that this has been like the situation the last couple weeks? No, I think Moldaver made sure everybody was in place when she came
Yes.
in to talk. But maybe Hank has been here. I don't know, but it just seems odd that they would keep him in this cage all the time. Like, especially if she's working up here, you're not going to get much work done with him around.
Mhm.
I love that Lucy says, well, I've had a lot of time to think about this moment. You wouldn't believe the things that went through my head as she's holding the head. And she's like, one
Mhm.
night I actually tried to stuff an old grenade into the neck hole.
Just
Guess
blow
I
us all
guess I
up.
was just going to walk in here and blow everybody up.
What a way to go, Will.
And she's so cute and innocent, right? She's like, but that's
Mhm.
not really how I was raised, So if you don't mind, I'm just going to keep things civil.
Yep, I brought your friend just like he asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just plonks this thing down in Moldaver's plate, just
Yeah.
right there.
Meanwhile, the mom, we see the ghoul for the first time because we heard it snarling. And when I was watching the scene, I was like, "What is that noise? What do they have
Mhm.
there?" And then you see the ghoul in the background.
And it seems so strange that there's this restrained ghoul in the room at the time, the first watch through before it just seems completely bizarre, and it makes Moldaver seem unhinged in a dangerous way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Meanwhile, living like an emperor in the top of the castle with
With like
this
an entire
plentiful
roast pig.
bounty of food from the peasants in the schoolyard who are
She's eating like
picking
King
the corn.
Robert from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because it does show, the one thing that it does show besides unhinged is that she is accepting, that she has, just like out in the courtyard, accepted ghouls into her community. In a good way, that there's people of all kinds here. There are farmers, there are warriors, there are some raiders. And yeah, as time goes on, you kind of learn that this is the last vestige of the NCR in some ways, which, we didn't necessarily know at first. But
Right. So Lucy asks for her dad back, and Moldaver says, like, sure, but first, let's talk about how I know your dad. And Hank immediately reacts adversely to this. He's like, don't you listen to her? She's a liar. She's not going to tell you the truth. And Moldaver says, you think he was born in a vault, just like you and your brother, don't you?
let me tell you a story.
Mhm.
And then it
Yes.
switches scenes to Vault 31 and Norm.
I just love Norm. He's so good.
He's so great.
Gosh. Just love
Um,
Norm.
And what is he doing here?
So he has come in because he wants to find out the secret.
Oh, that's
What is
right.
going on here?
This was the ending scene of the
Mhm.
previous episode where he
Yeah,
walks
he's
into Vault
in
in a
31.
dark corridor.
Yeah.
All of
Mhm.
the overseers come from Vault 31. So what's going on in Vault 31? I want to meet the people running this thing.
And I love that he's like, hello. And you hear off in the distance, like, I'm going to get it. I'll get it. Don't you worry. It's
Thunk,
like
thunk.
this little
Mhm.
robot just living his best life by himself, working away.
Brain and a Roomba, as they call it on the subtitles. Brain and a Roomba. And he is pulling a Stuart Smalley. Like, darn it, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and I'm going to move this broom.
And
I
it's
love the
just-
brain Roomba. He's so
Who
cute.
hasn't had their Roomba get stuck like that before, right? The Roomba always gets stuck in a little corner like that. And imagining it without you there to come and rescue the Roomba, it would struggle so much.
I
It would
love
struggle
that
so
this
much.
isn't necessarily a Fallout reference, and this particular model of robot we've never seen this really, right? In any of the
No, we've seen RoboBrains before, but they're a much bigger
much bigger
robotic
things, right?
body.
This
So
is
I love-
custom work.
It's almost like they're breaking a wall here to talk about the triumph and tribulations that people face with their Roombas every day in their living rooms.
Hmm.
It's a little bit Futurama. You know,
Well,
it's a little bit head in the jar kind of thing too.
But it kind of goes back to the whole universe of Fallout where everything is better and our houses are automated and life is so good. And they're kind
the
of
Roomba
like,
can't get out of the corner.
they're kind of making fun of our own reality, right?
And
They
it
are.
is an extra little twist of the knife that the thing that has him trapped is a mop and a mop bucket.
Yeah, because, if we were actually,
Mhm.
2 arms can mop the floor too,
Hmm.
by the way.
So
Yeah.
good.
Anyways.
So yeah, this is the moment that we find out that Bud is the true antagonist.
I think I need to get a Roomba and I need to glue a glass dome and a brain to it and just
Brilliant.
let it go around the house. I'm sorry.
I
Name it
really
Bud.
do.
It's really
But I love the little
fixated.
green thing on front, the little green readout too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he does help free him. Norm does help free him. And of course, the RoboBrain, well, not RoboBrain, brain on a Roomba, turns around and he's like, wait, who are you? And he scans him. And, you're not Betty. You're not Hank. And then he's like, but you are 50% of Hank's DNA after the scan.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
And it's so cute that he's just like so mad and he's like, okay, I've got to take care of this. And he starts chasing him with the little needle.
yeah.
Initiate Protocol
like,
53.
wait.
What do you think that is? Is he going to is this like deadly poison? Is that
I
Protocol
assume that
53?
it's deadly poison.
Yeah.
He's
Maybe he's just
attempting
going to trank
murder
him until
Norm.
someone can do something. But
I love that he's so cheeky. Like, he's like, wait. I won't answer your questions unless you let me inject you with this. Don't move. Hold still, please.
It's so good. It's
And then-
so
classic
good.
management negotiation tactic.
It's just
I
so
won't answer
cute.
questions unless you do this horrible thing that is not going to end well for you.
He has so much, this little robot has so much confidence, and Norm just walks away from him like, get off of me, like,
Yes.
and he's like, don't go in there, don't you dare go in there, no, or turn on those lights, don't you access that info tree or look at the terminal. Like, he's telling him exactly what he needs to do to find out what he needs to do, like,
So good.
so
And
good.
this is so classically Fallout. This is 100% something that could have unfolded on the Big MT.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's sort of the end of the scene, and then we flip back to Coop and his wife, in retrospect, and he's asking her any idea when Barb will be back, and he's asking, actually, sorry, it's not Coop and his wife, it's Coop and the assistant, the secretary.
Mm-hmm.
And he's asking when she'll be back. And she says, I'm sorry, she's in a meeting. Something about vertical integration or above my pay grade.
hmm
And I love that little quip about the hierarchical structures
Mhm.
of companies, right? And capitalism.
And she offers him a place to sit and wait for her.
Yes, sit, have a drink. And oh, by the way, one of her other new assistants, Henry, is a big fan. Do you mind if he comes in and
Yes.
introduces himself?
Yes. And he's a really big fan of yours. And I like that he's like slightly annoyed
Mm-hmm.
Well,
because, like,
yeah,
he really just wants to do a little bit of corporate espionage. But, he's being distracted by his own successes and
Mhm.
having fans.
and I mean, he's upset with himself about this whole thing. He's torn up right now. He doesn't want to spy on his wife. And the only thing that has convinced him to get to the point where he's doing this and yet feels really guilty about it is that he feels like he's helping to protect his wife from whatever Vault-Tec may be up to. He wants to know what she's going through, what's going on, learn more about the situation so he can determine from there if the people, in the meeting, were telling him the truth about Vault-Tec manipulating the situation, Vault-Tec having more power than you realize, Vault-Tec kind of engineering some of what's going on with the war. He wants to determine the truth of that, or just kind of, just lay his fears to rest because they told him, listen in and you'll find out. And he doesn't think he will, but he needs to know. So he's definitely has an internal battle right now with doing this.
And honestly, this part really bothered me. And this is the way that Coop interacts with Barb is part of why I am not 100% on his side. I just can't completely love him because he does not trust her. And to be fair, he has some indications that maybe there's something going on that she hasn't told him about. but I feel like he sort of I feel like he never took her job seriously.
Well, he has a lot of
And-
paranoia and distrust for Vault-Tec, period.
I don't, and he didn't before though. I mean, that's kind of
Mhm.
something that's been growing
Yeah.
over,
Yes.
over recent months. And I also feel like he gave her a lot of chances. Like he did try to get the truth from her and did try to get her to talk more. And she shuts him down every time.
I
I'm
think-
still,
I
I
just-
agree that it's not
just-
right, but
I think that he doesn't take her career seriously.
no, he doesn't. It's
And
a
that-
classic kind of 50s
Mhm.
guy sort of.
But
Mhm.
you're also right, Jess, in that the disconnect that she created between the two of them by having to stay true to her job and sense
So
of
many
duty,
secrets.
it created
really
a
hard.
chasm, right?
Living with
So
someone who's obviously keeping secrets from you day in, day out will wear on you.
Mhm.
But also, like, I feel like maybe he should have a little more trust for her.
Agreed. Agreed. It would have been better if they had a blowout heart to heart than this.
Mhm.
And that's why he's wrestling with himself, because he knows what he's doing is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
even
think
though
we're,
it's about to bear fruit.
I think we're gonna see more of that. We're gonna see more of that in season 2 probably. But this scene is pretty cool because we see a lot of references to some of the bigger companies across the wasteland in the Fallout universe. Westech, we see a label for
Mhm.
Westech. I seen a Repcon, Big MT. Also, we have the Big MT.
Robco is also represented by Mr. House. So I found that
Yeah.
absolutely fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah, the people here are from Westech. It's Leon von Helden is his name. He's a lead researcher there. You've got from Big MT, you've got Frederick Sinclair, who Frederick Sinclair was involved with the Big MT, but he's much better known for running the Sierra Madre in Dead
Mhm.
Money and Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, that was
with
so
Repcon, it's
good.
Julia Masters. Julia Masters is the CFO. She's on several terminals. Once again, more of these people are referenced in New Vegas than the others. And then, of course, Mr. House, CEO and founder of Robco, referenced everywhere.
Absolutely.
Mr. House is
And-
the guy with the mustache, right?
We're listening in on this and hearing Bud basically describe his plan for middle management world domination. So,
Yeah, and I
We want
love
your help.
that. I mean, this is bone chillingly similar to current events right now. Right? And because I mean, if we just narrow in on the conversation, one guy's like on the let's call this what it is. Your sales aren't up to snuff and you need money. And then somebody else is accusing someone else of losing money running a casino. And then, rumors of peace negotiations that have set us back a bit. We're here, we want to offer you an opportunity. And when it's time to come out, what if people are still alive on the surface?
mhm.
They'll be Stone Age creatures, probably eat whoever steps out of your vaults. That isn't an issue. One guy says, our vaults have the resources to survive for centuries. Meanwhile, our competitors, every other human who isn't us, will be dead on the surface. Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
It's a ridiculous plan in a lot of ways. I mean, when you start to kind of pierce through it, you're like, okay, so you're going to control the market, but also you are the market. Like you're repopulating the earth just from
Mhm.
the vaults and a few other things, but you get where some of this is coming from, some of the ideas here. And Mr. House's line, I think my favorite line in all of this, I think he says, and this is paraphrasing, there's no denying that the end of the world is a very profitable market.
Mhm.
Something like that. But how do we guarantee results?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to jump ahead here, but like I love that line. Oof.
And
And the-
just prior to that, I think he also makes a good point about what is the ultimate weapon of mass destruction, and he says time.
Yeah, that's Bud.
Time
Yeah. Mhm.
time is the apex predator. And it's true. But yes, you're right. What were you going to say, Shalene? You had something else you wanted to say.
Just the fact that this show took the bold step of canonizing the theory that Vault-Tec did the war, like Bush did 9/11. They canonized the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I
Now,
think
keep in
that's
mind,
so bold.
I don't think the show did.
Really,
Have we had this conversation, Shalene?
I don't think we have.
think the show did. I think what the show did was reopen was reopen the conversation that Vault-Tec could have. I think what they
Mhm.
were doing here was establishing that Vault-Tec had the will and the access. In other words,
Mhm.
which is going to be important later, they had access to some nuclear warheads and arsenal codes and all that, that there was potential that they could. But previously, like just the fall before, so fall 2023, Tim Kaine in an interview had talked about how, one of the creators of Fallout, that definitively in their mind, when they created the first games, China had started
Mhm.
the war. And we're like,
Yes.
oh, wow, okay, because we didn't know if it was the US, we didn't know if it was China, we didn't know if it was because of Vault-Tec. And so that seemed to kind of slant it one way. And I felt like showing this shows that Vault-Tec had that access and that maybe it opens up the question again, did they? Were they the ones? But from a lot of the lore in the vaults, we know people in the vaults weren't ready. We know some of the upper management, overseers and stuff weren't ready. Also, Cooper out with their child when the bombs dropped. There's no way Barb, if she was in a position of being able to control it, would have allowed the bombs to drop while her child was not home with her
That is a
safe.
really good point. That is
Right.
a
So-
really, really good
So
point.
I don't think we know definitively, but I do think it raises the question again, did they?
I mean, it
Mhm.
does suggest that she actually truly didn't have a hand in the decisions that were made.
Mhm.
Could be that too.
Ultimately, in the end, right? Because
Yeah,
she
but
would
Mr.
have.
House didn't know either. Like in New Vegas, he talks about how his predictive model showed time frame it would be, and that he was just off by a few hours as far as getting the
Yes.
platinum chip and being ready in some ways. So he didn't know either, and yet he's in this meeting. So if it was Vault-Tec and it was part of this cabal, this shadowy cabal, he would have known.
Yeah.
So those are my
Interesting.
arguments why I don't know for sure.
Those are all reasonable arguments. Those are well-reasoned arguments. And while I am not fully convinced that this does not show us that Vault-Tec masterminded the whole thing, I am willing to accept that maybe we're not completely sure that that's what happened.
I do also want to chime in with what the people are saying in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
and Archon says it could have been the aliens. And
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
and Sulior is like, you might be onto something, tricking them into enjoying what's left. Anyways,
Yeah, I think there was a very serious theory about the aliens starting it, wasn't it? That's what you're referencing, right?
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's not a joke theory. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
serious theory.
No, it is. It is. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right, if that's what the Zedans wanted.
I'm
Mhm.
going to step away for a sec, Shalene, but I'll let you talk about this scene with Norm and the Robo Brain and the
Right.
things.
So Norm is just going into the room. He's looking at more and more, and I love that the Robo Brain Bud is just following him and saying like, no, you need to stop. I need to inject you. Like, don't do that. Why are you not listening to me? He says, this is conflict resolution 101. Why is this not working? Just, I think it's so cute. And this moment when we see the cryotubes in the vault is
Right.
chilling. I mean, it's absolutely chilling. And knowing that that's what they've done, they've frozen these pre-war managers so that they could keep these trained people. It's
Right.
just
And we don't know how many people there are here, but obviously quite a few looking down. I mean, that is one long hallway. And Bud says it's Bud's Buds, talking about his program earlier, which seemed so innocent at the time, and yet very much not. Now, are there enough people here to kind of repopulate? No. This might be in conjunction with several other facilities. They might be hinting at that idea. But yeah, Norm says, where's the rest of the vault? And I believe Bud says, this is the rest of the vault.
Mhm.
Now, I don't think that can be 100% true. I mean, there's got to be some facilities here. You know what I mean? When people are woken up, they've got to feed themselves, clothe themselves. There's got to be a location here where they're storing some robots and stuff to do some work and a bunch of things like that, backup resources. There is no way that they would not be prepared in this Vault 31.
Did we talk about this is conflict resolution 101?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
which
Okay,
which
okay,
that
good.
harkens back to Lucy in
Yeah.
in episode 2, trying the same kind of thing. Love it.
So cute.
This line that you've paused on here, where he says that America outsourced the survival of this country to the private sector. Man, that hits so hard, doesn't it? That
Mm.
hits so hard. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Elon vibes.
Yeah, if there's one thing I want in my survival shelter, it's cost cutting.
Mhm. And Norm sees his dad's pod, Hank McLean. McLean. How do you pronounce it? McLean?
I think it's
McLean?
McLean. Yeah.
Like the
Executive
magazine?
assistant, yes. And knowing that this is where his dad came from, his dad is a pre-war person. He's been lied to his whole life.
Then we're back in the underground with the baddies.
In the past.
Yeah, back in the past in the meeting. And
I don't
so
know
Bud's
about-
explaining.
I don't know about you guys, but I was having flashbacks to Jack Nicholson in Mars Attacks in this scene. You know when they're in the bunker and he plays the president and the aliens are attacking and there's like the United States map on the
Mhm.
wall with all the lights and he's like anyways, continue. Sorry.
I got classic war room vibes too, like
Yeah.
Doctor Strangelove and stuff like that.
The thing that really concerned me here is that there are not enough vaults in New Mexico.
Yeah, this is not a comprehensive map.
Like
I
it's
don't think.
really far. New Mexico is big and it is too far to get to these vaults. I'm never gonna make it in time, you guys. Never gonna make it in time.
Then we're quickly back in Vault 31 with Norm, and they're talking about the protocol, how people will inherit the Earth after we've wiped the surface clean.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're getting two sides of their plan at once. So we're getting the plan partly as hatched by Bud in the past, and then the plan as it exists now in the current future. So in that meeting that we just went through at that point, they were talking about here's our plan for 3 interconnected vaults, and there are over 100 vaults spread across America. The idea is competition. How are we going to bring you guys on board when they start doubting the plan? Competition. We have enough for each of you, each of these companies, to claim several vaults, create perfect conditions for humanity. Whatever you want to do, no one needs to know, and may the best idea win.
In the
So you
meantime,
get-
I love we have the ideas. The RepCon representative is saying, "Well, we've been developing a robot that delivers milk to the front door. You know, maybe we could recruit him."
Yeah, there are some cute ideas, but they also, I mean, they go into some of the experience we know about. You know what I mean? I think they reference the Vault 106 experiment with the hallucinatory gas. I think they.
We could separate parents and children. That's one of the experiments we've seen.
Mhm.
Right. I think Vault 87, too, right? Is it 87 in Fallout 3 where they're actually, creating the super mutants that's taken over that time? I think the Westet guy mentions that. There are a few others.
Like this is the moment where Cooper has solidified his suspicion in his wife.
Mhm.
Oh, well,
Like-
at least in Vault-Tec. Yeah, absolutely.
Like this is a very hard moment for him emotionally, right? It's shaken the foundation of his marriage and his relationship with his wife. It's shaken his trust in society and also his perception about reality and the world that he lives in.
Yeah.
Which for the most part of it, he's just been this happy-go-lucky actor who has had all this fame and success, you know?
Right. He's living the good life. He's got the hot tub and martinis with his wife. He kind of wants to get away back to the country. But yeah, so that is where we get to next, right? After
Does
that
anybody
Norm
know?
scene.
Does anybody know how much time passes between this meeting and the moment that the bombs drop? Because at the bombs drop moment, Coop and his wife are divorced.
We
So-
don't. So it could be 6 months. It could be as much as a year and a half,
Mhm.
2 years. We really don't know at this point. Yeah, I'm willing to say it's 1 to 2 years before bombs drop at least.
Really interesting.
But yeah, so what you're talking about there is after when they come back to the meeting here, because initially he's like, you tell them, Barb, because Barb's talking about how she wants to do it for her daughter and Janie, and this is why I have to have this plan and save people. So
Mhm.
Coop was like thinking his wife was standing up to this nonsense.
Mhm.
But
Here's a
then-
question. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Continue.
No, I was going to say, but then Mr. House, when he asked there's a lot of profit in selling the world. How do we guarantee results? And that's when Barb says, by dropping the bomb ourselves. And that's the moment you're talking about, Vendor, that just
Yeah.
crushes him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But here's a question. Do we know that his wife is still alive after they're divorced when the bombs drop?
Well, the gentleman references like, "Hey, why is Cooper Howard doing birthday parties?" He says alimony,
Mm,
so that indicates
he's
that Barb
paying to
is
her.
still alive.
yeah. Right. Good call.
Yep, we don't know that she's dead. And also, by the end of the episode, we get a moment where we kind of discover that too.
Okay, so we're back in the present time where Moldaver is telling this stuff to Lucy about her dad. So
Sorry, I need to eat some cashews. I'm feeling a little bit hungry.
mhm.
But
oh my gosh. And it flashes back again to Coop and Hank is talking to him and he references that one scene in the movie where he's like where he shoots the villain instead of arresting him, and that's like his iconic scene for Hank. That is the one that is
Yeah.
so important to him, that he holds in his heart. And that's the scene that we know is absolutely horrific to Coop. He didn't want to do it.
Yep.
So it shows how diametrically opposed to each other's belief systems they are.
Yeah, the original Cooper versus the Ghoul,
Mhm.
and then Cooper versus this, and Barb in making her declaration. This is when she utters that line, the iconic
Yes.
line, "War never changes," which then Cooper will say again towards the very end. But we hear it twice. We waited all season to hear it. We hear it from Barb first, which I was in the kitchen getting a drink when that came on, and I just shouted. I cheered. I was
Mhm.
like, what a moment that was. And it's funny, Cooper in an interview, he actually talked about, I believe this was with Variety. He said, I had no idea how iconic those lines were at the time. Because he was one, well, a couple of them had played the game and researched a bit. Cooper did not. Besides, character motivation, he just wanted to work with what they told him and nothing more. And he said, I thought Graham and Geneva, the two showrunners, just, knock it out of the park with those lines. And then come to find out
Yes!
it wasn't them at all.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I also I do want to comment on something that I am not sure if I've mentioned on the podcast yet. My greatest disappointment of this entire series is the fact that there was no Ron Perlman cameo. I am so hurt by that. How
Many of the
dare
voice
they?
actors, but Ron
How
Perlman for
dare
sure.
they not include Ron Perlman?
I
How
want
very
to. I want
dare.
to see Bill Burr. You know Bill Burr.
We
Remind
know
me
Bill
who Bill
Burr.
Burr is.
He was in Mandalorian. He was the prisoner.
Oh yeah.
No,
well,
Bill Burr is great, but did he play anything in Fallout? Because I'm not familiar with that.
not to my
No, he
Okay.
didn't. But I just think that he's an
I'm sure he'd
iconic
be
actor that would add to the show. Like,
but Ron Perlman though.
I know
Ron Perlman.
you're not wrong. Yeah.
And I want some of the classic voice actors to come in, with all the characters they've played. Although I do have to say,
Stephen
Matt
Russell.
Berry as the Handies, wonderful. He's not Stephen Russell, but man, he does a fantastic job.
He did great, but I am still a little disappointment that there was not Stephen
Oh,
Russell.
What a
there
hard-
should have been.
What a hard gig though to follow in that shadow, right?
Mhm.
Like you're never going to be Stephen Russell. And how do you define yourself by taking over this iconic character? that
But
has-
also, the show reached a lot more people than the games ever have.
Right.
So at the same time, people are going to watch the show and then go play these games and be like, they cheaped out on the voice actor. Well,
It's
we're
not Matt
like,
Berry. That's hilarious. You're absolutely right. But there's so much. I love the way this builds to a climax here. One of the reasons why we're jumping back and forth in our conversation a lot is because the show here, they are really building to a climax. Like they're jumping from past to present to past to present, tying it all in. Graham talking about the setup of the show, the way that they did the scripts. He's like, there are a number of whoppers, a number of moments of truth we have to drop. And we were looking at the ratio of whoppers per episode. And there are so many in the last episode. They're like, we tried to spread them out, but we couldn't. We just had to go all in on this episode. And boy, did they.
Yeah. And
so
and
much happens here.
Lucy is kind of learning for the first time who her father really is here, right?
Yeah. Yep. This is where it all comes to, because we get the moment of realization when we actually see Hank walk in, Hank being Henry, the assistant in the past, talking to Cooper, like Shalene was saying, and saying how much he liked that line. And then you have, we just saw before we saw the cryo chamber. So the audience realizes, then the audience really realizes, and then Lucy is now discovering.
Mhm.
And
And it's
of course,
really
Hank is saying it's
interesting.
not true. Don't listen to her. It's not true.
Mhm.
And yet she knows. She knows in her bones.
It's so interesting watching Norm and Lucy come to these revelations around the same time, and seeing their different reactions to it, I think is really neat as well.
So then we're over at the Brotherhood of Steel, and they're all in a huff getting ready, presumably to go to Moldaver.
Mm-hmm.
And Dane and Maximus have this interesting exchange. He says, "Hey," and Dane says, or Maximus says, "I was just scared of going into the wilds. I had no idea they'd blame you for it, and I'm sorry." They apologize, and he says, "Don't be. I was meant to go on that mission. I met someone." And he's obviously referring to Lucy, right?
Right. Mhm.
But right now she's walking into danger, and Dane's like, "So is that why you came back to rescue her?" And he says, "I'm leaving with her."
Yep.
So do you guys kind of feel a little bit like Dane is getting friend zoned here?
Yeah, I mean, Dane was always
Maybe.
just a friend, but yeah, Dane might be feeling a little bit left out at this point all of a sudden because
Mhm.
Maximus has been off, and then Maximus is gonna, leave them again.
I do feel like Dane made this, huge sacrifice of admitting this, and whether or not it's true, I'm still not convinced that it's true. But
I find it
just
interesting that he has this love for wanting to make the world better, but he is now has this new obsession that he wants to go back to the vault.
Mhm.
He's like, "It's
Yeah.
better there." Like
Well, he says someplace safe. Yeah, and Lucy has sold him on it. You know what I mean? Like Vault 4 sold him on it partly, and then Lucy sold him on it more. But of course, when Dane hears this, Dane just looks so sad. And it might be partly the whole feeling like losing Max a little bit more,
Well-
but also just that Max believes in this because Dane, Dane is very much Max just a few episodes ago, where there's nowhere safe, Max. I wish
Well-
there was.
I almost wonder though here if Dane knows what a vault is.
I
Because
doubt it. Not
Max,
really.
like Max is, I'm going back. A vault, it's a place that's peaceful and safe where nobody ever goes to war. And Dane's like, "What?" And then they have to leave, and that's the end of the conversation.
Mhm.
Right. Well, also, if you go back to when they first landed in Vault 4 and they're having the conversation while they're locked up in the test studies thing, Lucy asks, what do you know about Vault Tech? Actually, when they locked up or even right before they went in.
Nothing.
And he says it's a place full of monsters.
Yeah.
He says it's full of monsters. So, like,
Mhm.
they've only heard bad things about vaults.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an interesting.
The dynamic between these two is great. They have
Yeah,
really
they're
great
great.
chemistry,
Mhm.
and I love the scenes that frankly I want more Dane in the show.
I wish they had more of them. I want more Thaddeus. Thaddy and Maximus
Mhm.
together are great. And yeah, Dane and Max too. I hope they get fleshed out a bit more. We see more of them together. Next
Just
season.
Dane is the Samwise Gamgee of this of this duo.
Then we
I
see-
can totally see that.
We
Yeah.
see the oh, we have an ad. I'm just gonna roll through this while we talk, but we see them going
Suddenly
off
I
to war.
just really want like an egg McMuffin. It's strange. I don't know. Just-
Yeah, and then we see this sort of flying of vertibirds and the Pridwin flying off in the distance, but in the background there's a really large city, and that's not Philly, right?
No, Philly's just a small settlement. So keep in mind, everything in the show is happening around the outskirts of LA.
Yeah.
They centered in so that you're essentially in the greater LA area.
Mhm.
Mapping it and trying to figure all this stuff out, it seems like the show basically takes place, 18 to 20 miles from the original vault. So you have all the way from the pier there, the Santa Monica Pier, up to Griffith Observatory, and then as far down south as like North LA, maybe LAX Airport you see in the background in one shot. So you're essentially, if you kind of divide greater LA area into a quadrant, we are in the northwest quadrant the entire time.
yes.
So maybe 100 square miles, but about 18 miles distance from the starting location to the final location.
The really interesting thing is that I've spent quite a bit of time in California in the last 3 years.
Mhm.
Probably a total of about 5 to 6 months.
Yeah,
over the
that's
last 3 years.
definitely more time than I have spent in
Yeah,
California.
I've only been there maybe like a month in the last decade. So I've been there a bit, but
There is something so special about driving through the desert in California. but also seeing LA off in the distance and seeing the smog, it is exactly what you see here on the screen. This is what it's like in real life. It's really interesting. But I also have these flashbacks of like when I used to play GTA 5 and I would drive up to Griffith Observatory doing the missions in GTA 5, and I'm just like having like all of this nostalgia about playing Grand Theft Auto and making that connection. It really is a great backdrop for any video game or series. But I like this shot because we see the Griffith Observatory, the settlement, Moldaver settlement, in aerial view, which looks a lot bigger than when it's just on the ground. But then we also see is it Shady Sands or
That's the Shady Sands crater there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that crater is supposed to be where Shady Sands was.
Mhm.
If I had to place Philly on this map where you expect it to be, you see that small cluster of 4 buildings and then a 5th away from it. No, much further up than that, I think.
Oh, okay. Like
way
here?
up there.
Or here?
Up further back. No. Keep going to the north, right on the edge of the horizon, straight up from where you were.
Mm.
Up there. Yeah, so it's near there towards the coast, closer to where the LAX airport would be.
Mm. Anyways, so then Lucy's still having another exchange with her dad, and I've lost my place. I don't quite recall what they're talking about here.
Yeah, so this is where we're kind of learning the story about Lucy's mom now. So she's talking about who her dad is. And then he says, do you know your mother? Someone was siphoning the water from the vault, siphoning the vault's water supply. She is intelligent and curious like you. That's how Moldaver goes on. And she said, so she supposed society returned to the surface. But when she talked to your father about it, he denied everything, shut it down, and she could tell and began to suspect he was hiding something. And so after time, she started to investigate. And she says, your mother took the children to the surface and found a wonderful city that was the promise of what the vaults wanted to be. But dad came after mom. She refused to return. So dad took the children and burned that city to the ground. This is all condensed in one, but it's essentially one speech there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And-
perfectly narrated. And
This-
in the meantime, he's like, come on, let's go. Let's get out of here. He's trying to like dodge the subject because
He's on the verge of tears. He's begging for his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Max earlier. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's really interesting too how this goes back to the flashbacks that Lucy has been having throughout the series of feeling the real sun on her
Mhm.
face.
She did. It wasn't her imagination.
Now,
Yeah.
here's something I just realized. Was it the second or third episode when Lucy has a flashback of her mother in the vault? Do you remember that scene?
Yeah,
Mhm.
And
that's
they're in the corn in the
They were not in the vault though.
right. It's not in the vault.
right. But I realized that her walking into the Griffith compound through the corn to her mother was foreshadowing.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. Connecting
Absolutely.
civilization on all these levels. Absolutely.
So like she was going back to her mom before we even knew it, and they were just sort of hinting at that in her walking through that
And going
experience.
back to my statement about how there are so many bookends in this episode, this description of her parents' relationship is a mirror of Coop and Barb's relationship also,
True.
because it's just the gender swap, because the mom is the one who begins to suspect that the dad is lying to her and discovers it.
That's
And
interesting, the parallelism between the two different worlds, right? Yeah. Good catch.
yeah.
I like how Lucy's dad was like, "Come on, let's go," but Buddy's literally in a cage. Where's he gonna go?
Mhm. Mhm.
Let's get out of here. Where are you gonna go? You're locked up in a cage. Anyways,
the thought is Moldaver will free him here because she brought the head. But yeah,
Mhm.
obviously there's a bit more. So now Moldaver starts to tell Lucy, what she brought. She brought you cold fusion, and she starts to explain about the cold fusion that we learned a little bit about in the previous episode during the meeting when she's talking to Cooper about that. Sorry if I'm jumping ahead. Oh yeah, we get the necklace. We get the necklace in the
Mhm.
shot here,
I lost
and that's when
it.
you also see the necklace on the ghoul and the realization dawning over Lucy's face.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is a hard scene to watch when
Very.
she realizes that her mother is that ghoul, and I struggled with this. This one was rough for me.
Well, anyone who has a strained relationship with their parent would metamorphize this scene. Definitely.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it's just as stressful. It's also unnecessary. May I just tell you, showrunners, you didn't need to put so much emotion into this final episode and throughout the series. That is Fallout, the absurd humor and the bleakness. But boy, did they make it bleak at times. I mean, Lucy got put through the ringer so much during the show.
I just find it so interesting how, I mean, obviously the food is there for Moldaver, but the mom, who's this
And everyone's
ghoul who
supposed to,
doesn't
yeah.
know she's a ghoul, or maybe she does, I don't know, is just in front of this bountiful spread of food. And there's just like this juxtaposition between like the person that she is and then like what she could enjoy.
Yeah, that's why I think of it as a bit of a set piece, as a bit of a setup, because, I mean, maybe she is up here all the time, and Moldaver talks to her sometimes just wants to be near her because they were so close, possibly even a relationship from, the way that the looks of it. That's,
It does
implied.
feel implied to me that they had a close relationship, possibly an
Mhm.
intimate relationship.
But that's the part that kind of makes me like suspicious of Moldaver, because like what kind of psychopath keeps this thing alive, because you're too
Yes.
selfish
I don't
to let
understand
go.
it either.
Like it's
I
a little bit messed up, right? Like it's you're basically you're just keeping a corpse in your house.
It's one of those unanswered questions. Maybe it was a slow decay. Maybe she was not like this immediately after the fall of Shady Sands, and it's been over the course of 16 years that she's gotten worse and worse. We don't know. And maybe she was just brought out for this moment, but is usually somewhere else, and Moldaver just can't bring herself to kill her. We don't know. And the food there, is it for everybody who comes up here? Because this is kind of the HQ. This is the headquarters for the location. It's not just Moldaver in here. There are people coming in and working and stuff
Yeah.
like that as well. So, I mean, the scene makes sense. But yeah, the treatment of Rose, the father here, it does feel very manufactured for the benefit of this scene.
Well, and it's interesting because like, she just wants to live her best life, but she's tied to this
Right.
chair. She can't even eat a pear. Like it's just yeah, this scene was really weird. And then we learn about Moldaver's grand master plan, which is
Right.
cold
The
fusion.
cold fusion. And your dad has the codes, and that's why I had to capture him and bring him here.
Yeah.
But she's been trying for weeks, and he has not yet given her the information she needs. And yet, with
Fair.
Lucy here and everything going on, he finally does.
Yeah, and he's like, "Look at me, Lucy. Look at me. Like we need to talk about this." And he's like and Lucy's like not having it. She's like, "What happened to my mother? Like what did you do?" And as she's still having those flashbacks to the cornfield, and he's just continually trying to tell Lucy that she's lying, that Moldaver is lying, and Lucy's just like, "Just give her the code, give her the code, Dad." She
Yeah,
steals
and
Dad.
that's when he does finally.
Yeah, and she
And
puts
of course, the code.
she puts the code in, and this instrument is so cool, right? You get the little plasma arc, it's all really fancy, and then you have the little screens, and I think this computer is pretty comparable to what we would have seen in some of the major control rooms and some of the places
Oh,
in Fallout.
definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the
oh,
scenes
Fallout.
that I thought felt very, very strongly like something that would unfold in the video games.
Yeah.
100%. And of course, the code Shalene. You know what the code he used was, right? Do you have
I
that
don't
written down?
remember it now. I don't remember it
is.
now.
10-10-9-7. Y'all recognize that?
Is that the release date of the first Fallout?
That's it. Yep, the original release date of Fallout. Mhm.
Oh, that's so clever.
That's really
so
good.
clever.
Yeah, that's
Just
good.
another fun little Easter egg for us.
Okay, then scene switch back to the Roomba. Brain on a Roomba. And he's trying to plead with Norm. And Norm's like, "So you're just gonna like what? You're just gonna keep me here?" And the robot's like, "Just until we're ready to go to the surface, okay?" Like,
Yeah.
and
We'll
Norm's like,
put you in your dad's cubicle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, go
Fire
get your
chamber.
dad's, go get your dad's pod. It'll
unless
be
you
fine.
unless you want to starve to death, like I don't see any other option here. It's so good. And then he's like a little bit cynical. I like the cynicism. Because he's like, "I'd certainly put myself to sleep if I could."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
that-
this poor
Right,
robot.
you get that classic, another like kind of Fallout like dichotomy there, where he actually is in this state that he's trying to act happy, but he's suffering
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
and he did this to himself. you know,
And
without
then
thinking of the consequences. Much like Brad Burton, you know, as a reference to the
Yes.
from the Nuka-Cola company.
Yes. Caleb
But
Bradburton.
yeah.
Mhm.
Now we see this pad of names, and this is the people who are in cryostasis versus those who have been reactivated.
Right. And
And
probably there are multiple pages because there's only about 30 names here total,
Mhm.
25 to 30 names here total.
now, Jess, as an authority, all Fallout things, are there any names here that stand out for you? For me, Joan Polanski sticks out, and then also was it Feldman? Feldman was the sales guy, the Vault-Tec sales guy, wasn't it? No.
No.
I don't know. That's Claire Feldman there as the name on the list. But yeah, I can't catch many references here for what the names are. Just we know the ones that they have activated in the past from Vault 31, many of whom have become overseers in the other vaults, Vault 32 and
and
33,
he sees on
and the people still
here.
sleeping.
Yeah.
Steph is on here. Betty
Mhm.
is on here.
Ian Jackson,
Mhm.
Lawrence Ronald, Alex Bomer, and Patricia Peters. I don't know if we know
Which were-
And
those.
his dad.
They were all before his time, and a couple of them were in Vault 32. They weren't all Vault
That's
33.
true.
A couple
Yeah,
of them were
that's
32.
That's chronological, that list. Yeah. So I wonder if we're going to see some of these unactivated, dormant people coming in the next season, maybe.
We certainly could. And there
Yeah.
may be a lot more, you know, because there are a lot of cryotubes here. So that's why I really think this is page one of multiple
agree.
pages.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then
You can't
he's-
leave, son of Hank.
Yeah, he's trying to coax him. I love that shot with the pods. It's so good. Then we're back to Moldaver. The cold fusion's at 99%, and the Brotherhood are basically on their front door, right?
Yeah.
Yep, they are.
They're
And
coming.
and her dad's trying to explain here because he, you know, he's no longer denying. And now he's saying, I was just trying to save my people. I was just trying to save us, our vault, our plans. That woman over there, she's the same as me. As in, you know, don't trust her any more than you trust me. You know me. And, you know, I had my reasons for what I did.
Yeah.
And then the alarm sound, the Brotherhood's approaching. And Dad says, I loved your mother, but she took you into danger. And that's his whole, that's his whole reasoning here. You know, she stopped being your mother when she took you into danger. I went to save you. That's why I did what I did. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood's coming up. Anti-aircraft missiles are starting to appear and launch.
I
So-
just want to, looking at this scene here, I never realized how perfect Dane's nose is.
Dane has amazing bone structure.
It is a beautiful nose. That is a beautiful nose, and the lips and the bone structure, the
Mhm.
cheekbones that are practically on the top of the Space Needle, right?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, no, Dane should be a character creator default for sure.
Dane is a beautiful person. But I would also like to note back to bookends. So Maximus thinks he's coming in to save Lucy, to rescue her from this dangerous situation that she's in. Because, you know, that was their plan all along, was for her to recruit some Brotherhood people to help her go save her dad.
Mhm.
But instead, we have again the situation in Vault 4 where he busts in and throws a fridge, and it was entirely unnecessary. So, right? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like that's the Brotherhood way, you
Mhm.
know, like blast them. So anyway, just start blasting.
hmm Really interesting.
Forced to
But
do
I
horrible
just-
things
yeah.
in order to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I find that this is a really interesting scene because yeah, it's like there's so many things happening here, right? We have Lucy and her dad trying to like come to terms with everything they figured out. Moldaver's trying to mount a defense. The Brotherhood's coming. The mom's tied to the chair, gnarling and drooling, and like Dane and Maximus are still trying to navigate together too. Like they're
Right.
I mean, this is a whole like going through war together. Not that I know what that's like,
Mhm.
but like that's something to be said. Shalene, you look like you have something to say.
Well, this is a slight step back, but I was also really mad at Hank trying to
Mhm.
justify his actions in this whole
100%.
thing.
100%.
Because, like, he's, oh, I was just protecting you, but he could have just like taken them back to the vault and shut
Without
the door.
killing everyone. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
nuked an entire town, a whole settlement. He destroyed the new California Republic because he was a jilted husband.
Yeah. And
That
because
is what
he's a
happened here.
true believer in Bud and Vault-Tech's vision.
Mhm.
Like Bud, Barb, and plenty of people, because they're only, they're in the southeast region or southwest
Mhm.
region, but there are plenty of people at Vault-Tech above them. You know what I mean? Like Braun and such. He goes on during that speech to justify. He says, if the problem of the world is factions, endlessly at war, make the world us, only ours to shape. And so it's because he buys into that he's like,
Mhm.
no, we've got to kill these other factions. We've got to destroy them. This is not the plan. I mean, it's horrific.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you think
It's
Lucy?
horrible.
Do you think Lucy's mom and Moldaver were lovers?
Yes, we already talked about that.
Oh, we did.
We
I must-
absolutely
Yes.
had that conversation.
I must
Their
admit,
relationship.
maybe that's when I stepped away.
No,
we
you're part
both-
of it. It's
We
all good.
both thought that there was an implication that they may have been more than friends.
Yeah, yeah.
That maybe history books would write about them as two friends who never married and lived together their whole life. They were such good friends.
I mean,
But
okay. Scenario time. If Steven turned into a ghoul, would you keep him around or would you put him in a box?
Okay. I am going to keep Steven as long as he is Steven, as long as he has his mind, his personality, as long
He's
as
like,
he
what
is
are they talking
him,
about right now?
I am going to keep it. Well, he knows what we're talking about. He's listening to the phone. Well, he doesn't because there's a delay. But the moment that he is completely feral and has lost his humanity, I am not going to keep him alive. I am going to put him out of his misery. He wouldn't want to continue to exist in that way. I know he wouldn't.
you may not be able to do it, but someone would have to put him down for his
Oh,
own.
I
good.
would totally be able to do it.
Oh, you would.
I would
Shalena's,
totally
she's,
be able to
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
I know I could.
Don't
I would not
underestimate
be
her.
able to let anyone else do it for me.
Oh,
but
okay, you wouldn't want that burden on somebody else.
Have you
yeah,
seen
it kind of
what
makes you think of the overseer with in 76 with her
yeah.
fiance there, Evan.
Mm.
But yeah, if whether it was Steven, who is my partner, or you guys who are among my besties, I'm not going to let you continue to exist in that state.
Thank you.
Yes, I would definitely not let you continue to exist as a feral ghoul. I'm reasonably confident that you would not want that.
Even 10% us, okay, keep us around for our good
Yes.
days. But 0%, no, sorry.
I
Yeah.
would restrain you in a way that made you unable to harm other people. But as soon as whatever makes you you has completely left, at that point, I think that the correct choice would be, I guess, euthanasia. Would it be called would you consider it euthanasia
Yeah.
at that point?
Okay, so back to the show. I see Vendor has got us right to the right point
Sorry.
here. The ghoul finally comes on the scene. So we've had Cooper in this episode, but we haven't had the ghoul except for just one quick shot of him walking.
I love that Cooper walks in with his thum thum gun and he's like just taking care of business, blasting through power armor. No
I would
problem.
like to
He knows
clip
exactly
that
what he's
sound
doing.
effect and use it in the future.
Thum. Thum.
That was so good.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, the guy basically has a potato cannon on his arm, right? Like,
Can somebody mod Fallout for me so that all the gunshots sound like that?
that's probably a thing.
There's that beautiful Pew Pew laser mod, which, by the way, I highly recommend that mod. It's super fun. If you give your companion a laser rifle and install that mod, you'll never lose them again because you're like, wait, where's
Pew, pew,
Piper?
pew.
Pew, 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 pew.
I think that they have, okay, so I think in the upper level of the observatory, they have perfectly captured the lighting. But down in the initial foyer, they totally borked the lighting on that scene. It is way, way too dark in that battle. And it makes it
is
really
dark.
difficult to see what's going on, to see where the ghoul is, because he's all dressed in black anyways. So I think that was a cinematic misstep on their part. I think that they
Yeah, I
probably
think
could
they
have
wanted
had
you
a
to see
little
the
bit.
explosions. Like when he penetrated the power armor and they had the explosions, and to make it so you couldn't actually trace the action to make it seem scarier than it was. Like
Well,
in a
it-
horror movie.
it could have
where
been
you know
like-
there's something in the dark and
Yeah,
but you can't actually see it.
It could have been deliberate, like Coop was wanting to be in the dark to make it more difficult for them to detect him.
Mhm.
But yeah, then we're upstairs, and this is the scene that breaks me, right?
Oh,
Because
this
Mhm.
was so rough. It was so
it's
rough.
Lucy, it's Lucy and her mom, and she's trying to process everything that's happening, and she's crying. Is this the first time we see her like actually cry in the season?
I think it might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's held a lot in. She's been through a lot.
She's
Her eyes have
reacted
welled.
to a
but-
lot with okie dokie, the okie dokie attitude.
Okie
you know?
dokie.
You would
Mhm.
think that she would have been in full-on tears at every step and corner of the wasteland, from the rad roaches to the head to the sawing the head, but
It's
she
implied that there have been a few off screen, but yeah, we have
She-
seen on screen.
she totally held it together, and I think that builds this moment up even more significantly than what we
With the
would.
close up on her
right?
face too. Like they get so close in here. I think Geneva was talking about how they used the good, the bad, and the ugly as a template for a lot of how they wanted to show things in the show, with the three characters and the three stories coming together. And there's that moment in the final gunfight where they do the close ups on the faces in kind of the same way.
hmm She meets up with Maximus. Maximus has his flashback of Shady Sands, because now he's putting it all together as well, and
For the
seeing
fifth time.
seeing Shady Sands from the view of the Griffith Observatory, that large crater in the background, right? And Lucy's telling him everything. She's telling him what's going on.
Right. And but she's having trouble telling him because she's crying. I mean, Maximus is there to save her, grab her father, and go. And she's like, but we can't take him with us. It was
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
He did it. And Max says, what? And she says, Shady Sands. That's all she says. And that's when Hank comes busting in. Lucy, you're coming with me. And Maximus realizes he turns around and gets knocked out.
Yeah, and her dad just like being having stolen the power armor. Do you think the dad has had power armor training at some point? Or is this another one of these lore breaking moments?
I'm going to say most likely he did. I'm saying, we're taking the 4 and 76 style where you don't necessarily need specialized training as much to use power armor. And I think it's fair to say that he has some experience with them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Over the intervening years, for sure. Because we got to remember, like while he was coming up as an executive, we don't know his life, in the past, that it might have been, more of a desk job, but maybe not only. The 20 years since then that he's been alive, he's certainly gone through a lot.
Yeah.
I just
Preparation.
Yeah, I've got an office job, and I'm reasonably confident I would not successfully run a power armor without extensive training.
I would like to see you try to use a Xerox machine in power armor. You'd go to push the button on the screen, and you would just put a hole right through it.
You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
it is hard enough to use a Xerox machine without power armor, to be fair. So,
Oh, good.
yes. Okay,
Goodness.
moving along.
Anyways, then Lucy pulls a gun on her dad.
Right.
Like you do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who hasn't?
Yep. And yeah, I really don't know what to say about this scene. Like, he's like, it's the same old tired playbook with him. Like, he's just trying to do this sob story to convince her.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I love how resilient she is. Like, she's able to sit and process all of this stuff and not take the easy way out.
He has been her idol
Mhm.
all her life. When you get her story about what's in the vault, she, did book club with her dad. She played games with her dad.
With her
She's on her
dad.
computers with her dad. He was the overseer. Everyone in the vault looked up to him like you do with the Vault Tech overseer. But beyond that, he was her dad. And this betrayal is so much. So yeah, he is, like you said, using the same tired playbook, but that's because this has been programmed in her in a way, like
Yeah.
forever. And yeah, I mean, there's such a change in Hank. You see Hank so differently here than you did before.
Then we see an entirely new story arc emerge in this scene, and that is between Coop and McLean and
Mhm.
Henry, right?
Yes.
And
And, I
Coop-
love this scene.
Coop shoots him in the power armor, which obviously with Coop's gun, that has to hurt, even if you're still in power armor, right? And it says, "Oh, you want another autograph, young Henry?"
Yep.
And what does he say? Well, it's easier
Fail?
to track and stuck a pig than to ask where it's off to.
Right.
And-
Yeah. So
and-
right. He starts with the whole line that Feo Fuerte Formal, wasn't that your
Yeah,
line?
yeah.
Another autograph young Hank. And then after he shoots Hank, and they're kind of in a face off. And Hank, after he's getting shot here, he's stuck, freezes, and then he turns and runs.
Sorry.
And
black
Lucy's
screen.
like, why did you let him go?
Yeah.
And he says, easier to track a stuck pig than what? Than ask where you're going off to.
And I love that he's like, hell, this kid used to pick up my wife's dry cleaning.
Mhm.
Yes, I love it.
And I was just kind of like, wow. So, okay, that's
Mhm.
a thing. And then he's like, you kind of know, because he accuses him of like stealing or killing his family, Coop's family, because he asks him where his family is, and then he says, war never changes. You look out at this wasteland, it looks like chaos, but there's always somebody behind the wheel. And I think he's suggesting or insinuating that it's Vault-Tec, right?
Yeah, and that's who I want to talk to. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the second war never changes line. I really loved his delivery here. It was
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. And and then he says, and that's who I want to talk to, and that's where your dad is headed, but you let him go. And the ghoul says, well, it's easier to track and stuck a stuck pig than to ask where it's off to. And you want to know how I know your daddy, don't you? And he says that to Lucy. Let's just say that everything about your whole little world was decided over 200 years ago.
Mhm.
And he's like, now you can stay here with him, but when this tin can soldier friends take this place, and they're going to take this place, they will kill you and everybody here. And he's speaking about the Brotherhood's relentlessness,
Mhm.
right? Because the Brotherhood doesn't like vault people. And then he's like, or you could meet your makers. And then he says, are you coming? And I was just like, I love this because like for most of the season that we've seen, Lucy and the ghoul have been at sorts
At odds.
with each other,
At
right?
severe odds. Yeah, they've
She
rubbed
hates
off on each other a
him.
little bit. He's rediscovered a bit of his old self more through his interactions
Yes.
with Lucy. Her idea of what her golden rule is, her kindness and not killing him after what happened in Super Duper Mart, stuff like that. He's rediscovered that, but he's also seen her following a similar arc that he had, where she
Mhm.
has lost her innocence and her hope.
She's gotten much harder through her
Right.
journeys.
The actor Aaron Moten, talking about this scene in one interview, he called it the death of optimism. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty intense.
Mhm.
But maybe for Lucy it is. And maybe for Maximus it is. It's because the way things are going for Max is what he wanted, but it's not what he wanted when we get there. But yeah, for Lucy here, I think that's where the ghoul and she connect a little bit. And that he knows what she's going through.
That is a really powerful line, death of optimism, because I
Mhm.
mean, again, parallels with our own reality right now, I think too. But this scene was like, this is iconic to something that we know, right?
Mhm.
Is this a reference to some particular war?
I don't think so. This is one of those times where war never changes.
Yeah.
We have these just
Maybe
heaps
that's
of
the purpose.
bodies.
Maybe that's
Mhm.
the purpose of this shot, right?
This looks like every war.
Like you think it would
all of
be,
them.
you would think it would be something specific, but it's all of them.
Yeah, it could be Hoover. It could be, Nate's intro in 4. It could be so many things. Yeah.
Mhm.
Napoleon. Yeah. We've kind of talked about that. Oh, and then she has to part ways, right?
Yeah. So she decides to follow him because he says, you coming, and he goes. And so she's there stuck. But she knows that when the Brotherhood shows up, they probably will kill everybody and kill her, especially with Maximus being knocked out.
Yes.
Like, so she can't take him. She wants to try, but there's no way she can take him. So she kisses him and she mercy kills her mother. And we get the final
Yes.
okie dokie as she decides to go. Like, God,
Yes.
what a moment.
Like that is like, I don't even know. There's no words for her to go through that roller coaster in presumably about 20 minutes real time.
Mhm.
Your dad's been lying to you your whole life. Your mother's still alive, but she's actually dead, and you have to kill her a second time. Like
And this guy that you met, that you were thinking about starting a life with, you
You've
have
gotta
to
leave him behind.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you got to go with the
took
bad guy that you
pretty
hate.
hard,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, talk about a bad Monday, really.
And it's funny because they're kind of frenemies, but also he's become a mentor for her
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. Yeah. I did hate that she had to leave Maximus behind.
100%. And Max doesn't know what happened from that moment. I mean,
Mhm.
he doesn't, I mean, he has faith in her, and yet his faith might be shaken. So, yeah, let's get to
Mhm.
this final scene. The cold fusion is ready. It's starting up. Moldaver staggers in. Moldaver's got a major wound to the gut. Maximus is watching her and then walks over to her. She sits and slumps next to Rose, the dead mother there. And Maximus is standing next to her as the lights start to come on. And she's dying there. And yeah, it's such a moment. And, Moldaver says, "What do you suppose your brotherhood will do with infinite power? Maybe you can stop them. Maybe you can't." And you can tell that she kind of knows Max. There might be more to Max, that he might be one of the good
Mhm.
ones. Whatever the situation is there. But then she dies. Max is looking out. And Max is in this moment. He doesn't know what happened. The father he
Yeah.
was going to help her rescue turned out
Yeah.
to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
And now he knows who he wants to kill. He says, "Why did you join the Brotherhood? To hurt the people who hurt me." Well, guess who hurt you? Lucy's father. Now he knows for the first time ever. Sorry, I'm getting excited, but this is such a big thing for him. So we've got that. We've got Lucy has
And it
maybe
is-
abandoned him or just gone off on his own, doesn't know. The ghoul, he doesn't know. So what's he going to do? Meanwhile, the Brotherhood comes in and they start to celebrate him, and he's getting everything he wanted
Mhm.
up until recently.
And it is so poignant.
he's kinda
that
like-
Moldaver dies with her hand, holding just hand in hand with Ghoul Rose. That's just
Well,
oh,
that,
it's rough.
Shalene, you make a good point, because that is the iconic scenes that we love and discover in the
Mhm.
Fallout universe in the making, right? How
Mhm.
many times do you
Mhm.
stumble into a hotel lobby and you see a skeleton with the legs crossed holding a newspaper and a cigar in the mouth?
Mhm.
It's just one of those things.
That's that Bethesda environmental storytelling. That we love so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. So, I mean, that was
Um,
cool to see that in real time. And
I
then,
also have to briefly comment because Archon made me laugh in chat. He says it's the companion limit. That's why Maximus can't come.
Totally. They
mm,
can have dog meat with them, but that's it.
yeah. And she's got the ghoul. Yeah, this was a intense scene. I was kind of like, what? Oh my God.
Yeah, all hail Knight Maximus. And Maximus is just there. He's faced with the fact that he lost what he was looking for, the death of
Mhm.
his optimism there. He fought to get here, and now what? Yet he's being hailed as Knight, but what does that mean to him? I mean,
Mhm.
if he is given the Knight title, which of course he will be, it looks like, he kind of helped vanquish things here. He's now going to be part of a brotherhood that is focused more on conquest and on reestablishing power under Cleric Quintus.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all he
Yes.
wants to do is go after Lucy. So,
Mhm. Really interesting.
Yeah.
final scene, they're walking into the moonlight. We Three starts playing, My Echo, My Shadow, and Me. You got Lucy, Dogmeat, and the Ghoul as the Hollywood sign flickers on.
Can we talk about the Deathclaw skull?
And then, yeah, the credits.
Yes,
Beautiful.
Deathclaw skull. And yes, I'm looking forward to seeing a Deathclaw in the show.
And a super
um,
mutant.
Yes, that too. I hope we see some of our known characters, like maybe
Vendertron.
Marcus the super mutant, Vendertron, plainly the star of Fallout New Vegas.
Agatha? Is it Agatha?
No, she's in 3. Agatha's in 3.
is-
Oh, you're talking about
no.
best friend Tabitha? You're talking about
Tabitha.
Black Knight?
is who we're
Tabitha.
talking
Yeah.
about. Yes, best friend Tabitha.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I
Agatha was
don't think
Violet.
she.
Milk of
I
Tabitha.
don't
Yeah.
think she can show up because she can die.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
true. Milk of
so-
human kindness.
Yeah,
So,
Rhonda.
yes, here we see
Dun,
that
dun,
very familiar
dun!
skyline
New Vegas.
that looks
it's New
so
Vegas.
much like
it's New Vegas.
Vegas.
It's New Vegas.
And Hank is looking down. We see the Lucky 38, and I can't wait.
All right, now I'm going to leave it on this scene because I think we should sort of move into our discussion about season 2. But I mean, given everything we've talked about and the previous episodes, Jess, why don't you start with giving us your overall impression of the season and the show?
Okay, well, they gave us Fallout and a new Fallout story in the Fallout universe we love. I very much enjoyed it. I love the revelations all the way through. I feel like it really kind of it really found itself in its footing for me in episode 4 with the Super Duper Mart.
Yeah.
The first episode, establishing things, really did a great job establishing. But then I wasn't so sure about their version of the Wasteland. It was a bit more Mad Max than Fallout to me at first. But little by little, they found their footing. It became more of the Wasteland we know and love as we got to see some characters. So yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed it. The lore issues, I mean, we know what they are. A couple of inconsistencies, which they may explain, they may not. There are a lot of dangling secrets. You know, how did Moldaver, how is she alive now and she was alive then? You know, one assumes cryo stuff. I think we're going to get a revelation about that in
But
season
they
2.
haven't really revealed how she lived. They
We have
haven't
no
revealed
idea.
that. We don't
Right.
know.
I mean, but she was with a company. She was associated with Vault-Tec. She was working on cold fusion. She probably had access to cryotech too, is the assumption. But we don't know. There's a lot of things unanswered. So
Maybe she was Enclave.
first season, really enjoyed it overall. You know, I mean, I gotta say, I loved it. It wasn't what I'd want from a game, but it was what I'd want from a Fallout story. And
Yeah.
their portrayal of the Brotherhood, you know, there are a lot of things that are a little bit different, but also work because in each region, Todd has said before, and I'll wrap this real quick, but Todd has said before that when they're creating the game, they look at the lore as a whole, but then they focus on what are the factions locally? What are the events
Right.
locally? At this point in the Wasteland, people aren't necessarily that aware of the rest of the world. So we're dealing with what people here know on this map in this region.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
you know, where is the rest of the NCR? Like, are they all gone because Shady Sands in the wrong location was destroyed or not? Where is going on with the Brotherhood? How much exists on the East Coast? How much still exists on the West Coast? What about enclaves in between? What about the Enclave, this Enclave facility that we saw that Wilczek escaped from? Was it actually an Enclave facility, or did they just have some Enclave scientists captured with another people running the facility? That was never made clear. There are all these questions, and I can't wait to find out more.
And I
Same.
think that kind of summarizes some of your thoughts for season 2. But did you have any other final thoughts or comments around season 2? Just
I
really
do
quickly.
feel
I know
that
that you've
at
got to
the-
run, and we'll sort of
No,
cut the
it's
show.
good. It's good. At the end of the credits on a lot of the episodes, they show more dead than alive. They show destroyed buildings. They show stuff, but there is life there. I do think that the fact that this view of New Vegas looks a bit lifeless does not necessarily mean that New Vegas is lifeless. I feel that's just kind of the
No, we're
aesthetic that
just
they went
the
for.
render distance is a little far. The NPCs
hasn't all
haven't
popped
popped
in.
yet.
Exactly. So I do think we're going to hopefully in season 2, we get some cool stories, flashbacks with House. I don't think we're going to see House present day because they don't want to, you know, change the story and the different endings, but I do think we'll get a lot of flashbacks with Mr. House. I hope we find some cool Vault-Tec stories, and I hope, you know, we let the good times roll in New Vegas a little bit.
Yeah.
Also Death Claws.
I would like
Also
to hear
Death
some
Claws.
references to the Courier.
Oh yeah, some of that DLC was so good.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Dead Money and what was the other one? I can't remember.
Which one? Lonesome Road, the Big MT? I
Yes.
mean, they showed up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite one was Honest Hearts, and I think that was an unpopular favorite. I feel like
We
that's not
probably won't go to
anybody else's
Zion,
favorite.
but
I'd like to see
Mhm.
some references to like Vicky and Vance
Mhm.
and you know
Yes.
the Buffalo Casino.
Give
like-
us New Vegas references. You know, bring up the
Yeah.
dam. Bring
Gene-
up, you know,
Gene
the NCR
skydiving.
presence here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Maybe
Gene
somebody says
skydiving.
like, "Oh yeah, you know, he's a veteran from the Battle of Hoover Dam."
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy over here used to be a powder ganger.
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic show, ladies. Jess, thank you for joining us. Don't forget, we record the show live every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard, and that's alternating between GameStack and that Fallout show. But this caps off the season 1 of that other Fallout show, so we won't be back for a while for TFS, but you can guarantee that Shalene and I will still be bringing you GameStack. Jess, any quick announcements about what's going on in your world that you'd like to add?
No, you know, listen to my stuff like the Fallout feed. If you're curious about a show that's dedicated just to summarizing these two, I do have a small show called Vault Talk. We only have 8 episodes, but specifically about story recap only. More of a recap than a lore dive like this, although we do
Right.
a little bit of both. So check
That's
out
such a
those.
clever name as well.
Yeah.
You liked it?
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good.
Yeah, but so, all the usual things, you'll find me around. Thanks so much for having me, you guys. This has been fantastic. Happy
Yeah.
to be back on that Fallout show again.
It's so good to have you here. Also, don't forget you can find us on Twitter at That Fallout Show. We Just Love Games at We Just Love Games. Shalene at Shalene L, myself at Vendertron N. Also on Facebook.com/That Fallout Show and /We Just Love Games. You can email us at info@wejustlovegames.com. Please like, subscribe, and review to our youtube.com/We Just Love Games. But you can also find the show on iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever fine podcasts are given away. Leave us a review. We record once
5
again
stars.
right here on twitch.tv/We Just Love Games. Do check out our other show. And Shalene, what is your last word?
Okie dokie.
We'll always have the time to talk about the wastelands, talk about the lore, talk about surviving radiation storms, talk about the doubts, talk about the fears, talk about the